It's time for Ohio State basketball. The Buckeyes are preparing for battle, and you're preparing to listen to them. Equally important, this is Fan Warmup.
Happy Thursday, everybody. Game day for the Buckeyes taking on the Broncos of Western Michigan this evening over at the Shot. It's our latest game that we've played so far. We've had a lot of 6:30 games early on in the season. We've had some weekend matinees, and it feels like a real-time college basketball evening here in Central Ohio. Again, happy Thursday, everybody. Ron Stokes, he's going to join us from the Shot coming up here momentarily. Let's go back to Sunday, shall we? Ohio State taking on Notre Dame. Again, we took a lot away from maybe the first few games for the Buckeyes, and we knew going into the Notre Dame game that, all right, this was going to be the biggest task that they had at this juncture of the season. Well, it all came down to the final 20 seconds. Buckeyes needed a stop, they needed a score, and they needed a stop again. And they certainly got that. Christoph Tilley got you ahead by a point, and then he also came up very big at the end of the game with Notre Dame. Micah Shrewsbury not electing to call a timeout at the end to reset their offense. It was a continuation of play. And in winning time, Ohio State got it done 64-63. Jake Diebler from yesterday in his media availability was talking about Christoph Tilley at this early point in the season. We knew it was a big addition coming into the year, how his ceiling, he feels like, has gotten higher early this season.
I think we've seen him be really productive, and he hasn't shot the ball from three nearly as well as he's capable of. So that certainly opens up, another dimension to his game and our offense. But as he continues to, I think, get comfortable, again, I think there's a period of transition come game time for guys who are in a program for the first time. And so I thought he's handled it really well, but his versatility has in the way he's been able to display that has been great for him and us. And I think there's still a lot more there to continue to build on.
We get to talk to assistant coaches on the post-game show, and Jake Diebler, I feel like, has been reiterating that a lot. Like, Christoph Tilley has done some really nice things this season for Ohio State. Right, 4 games played. He's been averaging 17 points a game. He's been your second, third leader in minutes, depending kind of on the game. He's been better, I think, than most people anticipated on the glass for the rebounds this season. But that three-point percentage, which Ohio State has given him the green light this season, it's been at 12.5%. So if he can open that up a little bit, maybe it starts tonight against Western Michigan. But I feel like he's been really, really solid so far. What about Jake Diebler? You got a couple of games before next weekend, next Friday, Black Friday, when you have to go on the road against Pitt. And then the schedule gets pretty thick and fast from there. What's he looking at from his team tonight? Mount St. Mary's coming up on Tuesday before the bigger games kind of enter the fray here.
I think the big thing for us right now is to play well on both sides of the ball in the same game. That's what we're striving to do. We want to, last 2 opponents really, it felt like it was a point of emphasis for them to limit possessions. And, we want to pick up the pace, so we can't allow the other team to dictate that at the level the last 2 opponents have. That's for us offensively. I think our defense continues to get better. Our defensive connection continues to get better. We executed a good part of our game plan against Notre Dame defensively well, and that was to limit their number of three-point attempts, specifically with some of their personnel. So, with that, we got a little too hugged up and opened up the paint there, especially in the first half. Thought we made some good adjustments in the second half. So, our defense has to continue to grow, but for us, it's about connection on both sides of the ball. And, we need to put complete games together. I mean, that's the big thing. It's going to take that, tomorrow night. So it's not necessarily for games in the future. It's for us right now. And that's going to be an important part for us as we continue to grow as a team.
And if you weren't watching or listening to this game this past Sunday where Ohio State defeated Notre Dame 64-63, Notre Dame led for a majority of the game. I think 27 minutes of game time. And then Ohio State jumped out to a lead a little bit, and then Notre Dame crawled back in, and then the last couple of minutes were back and forth, of course. But it all culminated in a victory. Listen, you've got some good games coming up here. It starts tonight against Western Michigan. You're back at home. It's the latest game that you've had, so should be a fun one over at The Shot. Speaking of The Shot, let's go check in with Ron Stokes.
It's time to go inside the Buckeyes with OSU basketball analyst and former captain Ron Stokes.
Ron, thanks for the time as always. Buckeyes and the Broncos of Western Michigan coming up at 8 o'clock. We were talking to Dave Dickerson after the game last week, Ron, and he was talking about the play after the play, right? Christoph Tilley wasn't the main person really at the end of the game sequence for Ohio State to be the main scorer. They didn't draw up the play for him, but he scored. We saw a pick and roll. Amari Bynum throw it to Christoph Tilley down in the paint. That was the play after the play. And it seemed like whenever the call was needed, the play after the play worked for the Buckeyes in a gritty victory in one that you needed to get. Happy Thursday, Ron. Thanks for the time.
Yep, glad to be on. Yeah, we talked about the versatility of this team. I mean, you look at last year, the bigs, and you're talking about Aaron Bradshaw, Ivan Nagovin, Sean Stewart playing the frontline position. You don't typically run a pick and roll or any kind of situation where they were involved in actions last year. Now with having Christoph Tilley in the lineup, now you got Bruce Thornton out there as a weapon. You got obviously John Mobley Jr. He's done a terrific job in certain situations with the basketball, making plays at end of game. He did one with that nice little pass of Christoph Tilley. But Christoph Tilley has the ability to move off that perimeter, get to the basket, got great hands, then obviously the body and strength to finish. So, again, a big reason why Ohio State was able to win that ball game. You talked about it earlier, their defense, starting with Appalachian State. I thought they finished that game really well. I thought there were stretches in the game against Notre Dame, especially down the end, where they stayed in front of people, got the stops, and then obviously made the big play on the offensive end.
Ron, what did you make out of Amari Bynum's play? Because I think this is a guy we're all excited to see. Watch, right? Like, you can see what he brings offensively, defensively. Got some minutes in what you like to call winning time down the stretch, which I think was a pretty big vote of confidence from the coaching staff that Amari Bynum can work his way well into this lineup.
He plays with a lot of confidence, and what folks got to realize, yes, you got to have belief, but you develop that confidence by, great practice habits, getting out there in the court, having successful plays, then you build on that. And clearly, Amari Bynum is a young player that the Buckeye Nation has got to be very excited about. You look at his numbers, 20 minutes in the last ball game. He's out there for a reason because he's producing. Every single game he's going to continue to get better. Sometimes the numbers may not typically show it, but the experience, he'll continue to grow. He's going to be a really solid player coming off that bench for Ohio State.
Can you talk to us maybe a little bit, Ron? And I heard you say it against the game, or in the game against Notre Dame. The game sped up for him a little bit, right? Like he had one turnover, I think, and maybe it was a double dribble. And I think I went back and watched it. I'm like, I don't know if I necessarily agree with that call, but you said that it was, that it speeds up a little bit. Can you tell us about that and what you were meaning when you're saying that, right? Because it's a big arena. You're playing in front of a huge crowd. It's Sunday. It's matinee. When you say that it gets sped up a little bit for these young guys, can you kind of just talk us through X's and O's, kind of what that means for them?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, clearly when you go from high school to college, and then especially playing in the major D1, in high school, more times than not, you're the biggest guy, and sometimes you're the fastest, depending upon your competition. Well, when you go to the next level, like the Big Ten or major D1, everybody's talented for the most part. People are just as quick as you are. And the game has changed to some degree in terms of the pace. And that's what I mean by being sped up. You're going too fast. But as you get more experience on the court, the game slows down. And it may be a mental thing more so than anything, where you can see the action before it actually happens. Just in that particular instance you talked about, he caught it. He wanted to get from point A to point B quickly, but as the game slows down, he's going to see that basically playing in front of him, and he'll be able to do it without traveling. It's just a process of, growth and experience. He's going to be a tremendous player for Ohio State.
Ron, always appreciate the time. Thanks for popping on. Have a great call with Big Daddy, the voice of the Buckeyes, Paul Keels, tonight. We will check in with you again on Tuesday, all right?
Hey, all right, go Bucks.
There goes Ron Stokes with us every single pregame show right here on The Fan. Love Ron's analysis. It's terrific. Him and Paul, some of the best in the business. Have I said that before? I've said that many a times. Whether it's basketball and Paul and Ron getting to listen to them, whether it's football and you're getting to listen to Paul and Jim on Saturdays, we have some fantastic broadcasters. Those guys going to be taking you through the evening. We've got some Buckeye basketball. Not necessarily late night, but late enough. Latest game that we've had so far to this point of the season. Everybody have an awesome night. We will talk to you in postgame. Buckeyes, Broncos coming up next right here on The Fan.
been listening to Fan Warmup. Stay tuned for Buckeye basketball on your flagship home for Ohio State athletics. The Fan, Ohio.